And it's very much like going to a party and becoming attracted to a guy or a gal out there. The same thing will happen in your quest to finding someone who can take you out of this darkness. The same thing will happen when you go out there looking for a teacher or a book, doesn't really matter. Okay? You can look at Sadhguru and he can say wonderful things, but you say, nah, I'm not really feeling it. Okay. You can look at the Buddha and you say, yeah, he says some very, very interesting things, but I'm not feeling it. And remember, these are all like bona fide teachers. They know a thing or two. But even though they give you insights, they're not giving you the key. And you have to figure out why. Everybody else is following him or her. Why can't I? For some strange reason, the door that lives inside you, and you don't know what it is, what kind of a door it is, all you know is a Sadhguru is a key. You put this key inside the door, it just doesn't unlock. And despite you self-deceiving and being very cunning into forcing yourself to accept this man as your teacher, it's just not going to work. Eventually, you're going to walk away. So as you shop for physical things, as you shop for emotional things, as you shop for intellectual things, you're going to shop for spiritual things, spiritual teachers, or spiritual books. You have no choice but to shop, and you need to shop. Because there are lots of charlatans out there who are more than willing to take your body, to take your emotions, to take your intellect, to take your money, all sorts of things from you. Okay? So you need to be clever, cunning, and you need to be a healthy seeker. And by healthy, I mean your physical, emotional lives, for the most part, they have to be relatively intact. If not intact, you need to at least understand them relatively well. Okay? And it's not that all of us can, and most of us just walk into stuff quite ignorant and being in a dark place, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. No one knows. You know, like anything else in life, it's a shot in the dark. Now, just because you're on the spiritual quest, it doesn't mean you have divorced your life completely. And like anything else, you don't like animals, but there's a cat who comes to your house every single day. As this cat comes to my house, you know, I tell you, every night around like 6:30, 7 p.m., I look out the window to see if the cat is there. And throughout the entire night, like from 6 all the way till 10, I keep looking and looking and looking. I don't even like animals. I don't even like to pet animals, you know? And yet it's a cat that has grown on me. I've gone to Costco, I've fed her for the past 2 years. So attraction comes about. And when I'm eating food and all of a sudden the cat meows and I can hear the meow, I say, I should go to the garage. Then some parts of me says, Amir, you're eating food. And then I say, Amir, you have the power to chew your food as you're walking to the garage. You have the power. You have the will. You know what happens when any living organism out there suffers from hunger. Don't be a jerk. Go out there, grab the food, take it out there. Okay? And the point I'm trying to make is, whether you want to or not, eventually you're going to look out there and someone, for some strange reason, you feel as if they have certain qualities that are answering to the needs and the yearning that live inside you. And with every need, and remember how needs come about. First you're curious, then you become interested, then you say, I want it. And then when the want continues, you say, man, I really just need to be around this person. The moment it becomes a need, you're now entangled emotionally. You know, when I had met Hussein, it was a very, very casual relationship. Very casual. And then there came a point where I said, man, if a day goes by where I don't hear from him, or if he doesn't come to the car wash, if I don't give him a call to talk to him, I'm a complete mess. If I can't reach Hussein, I'm going to call Mehrdad. If I can't call Mehrdad and he's not there, I'm going to call the other Hussein. Because the three of us, he was the umbilical cord. He was like our sun. If you can't find the sun, find the moon. If you can't find the moon, find the stars. If you can't find the star, find the goddamn fire out there somewhere. Because all they do, all these different things have in common, they illuminate. Okay. And then you fall in love. Now, the longevity of physical components in your life, 2 weeks, you'll get tired. Emotional life, 2 years, you'll grow tired. Intellectual life, it can carry you for 10, 15, 20 years. Okay? And it's a great life. I mean, all these different lives are good. As long as you kind of know that, like milk, they have an expiration date. And you have the resources that when you look at the bucket of milk and it says expired 2 weeks ago, you have $10 in your pocket. You're healthy enough to walk to Safeway. You buy another gallon, you put in the fridge. Right? The problem with this particular key, the spiritual key, is that first, you don't really know what your door is. And you don't know the nature of your door. You don't even know what sort of a keyhole you have. Now, this person, he, she, it, whatever, as you get together with this person more and more and more and more, as your emotions flare, you could be married, whatever the case may be. You begin to have two lives. A physical life that has a good amount of emotions and mental activity, intellectual activity, and the spiritual life. And you better be able to keep these two lives very, very, very separate. Very separate. You can't serve two masters at the same time. If you're going to your husband, focus on your husband, because the moment this other person walks in from this other world, your life here will be ruined. Maybe for 5 minutes, maybe for a year, maybe for a month. So respect each world as you walk into it. It's going to take you a long time to be able to understand the sort of key this person is giving you. All the other keys you can see. It's immediate. You go in, you have some emotional crisis, you look at your companion, you talk to them, and you feel that they're not in tune with you. They're washing dishes, or maybe they're playing music, or maybe they're just happy. Maybe they're just tired, they're not in the mood. And you realize, well, it's not going to work out. You walk away. You can see those things immediately. You have a question about some social issue, you read a book, it's not answering your question. It may take you 2 weeks. But this other place, it's a place you and I have never been. And so when you fall in love with this person, you have no idea why. You don't know what they have. You don't know what they're giving you. You don't know why they're giving you those things. And you assume that because every other area of your life, the physical, emotional, intellectual, there has always been a key, and you've used the key, and you've opened the door, and you've seen the inside. Some negative, some positive. This, you have to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And as you wait, your love grows, but also with it comes confusion grows. Anger grows. Loneliness grows. Dependency grows. And it's a very, very difficult place to be. Now, there is biologically inside us this component called fear. It's there for a reason. It tells you subconsciously, the world is dangerous, people are dangerous. Be aware. If you doubt, it is because something about you is rising up saying, be careful. You don't want to be hurt again. You don't want pain. You're not the sort of animals who enjoy pain. And these are good things to have. If the physical, emotional, intellectual lives invite you to the world on the outside, the world on the outside, you can see, you can taste, you can touch, you can smell, and you can hear. When you mature or graduate to a place where you want to kind of understand who you are, if you have a soul, the spiritual quest, so to speak, it's beyond your senses. You don't know what you're looking for. Abi, hello. How are you? It's good to see you. Because you don't know what you're looking for, and because you have this feeling that this other person has some of the nourishing components that you're looking for, you will fall in love with this person, and you will fall in love in this way. You will always desire to be in his or her physical space. Always. And it comes in different ways. For us, we just needed to be at his house. We need to see him with our own eyes. We need to hear him. Okay. If he wasn't around, the three of us, Hussein, Mehrdad, and I, would sit and talk about the stuff. The physical. Okay. And remember that the physical life has been created by this person named Hussein, i.e. your teacher. Like a billboard, your teacher advertises certain things to you. Sensory things, things you can see and hear and touch, and they bring about emotions. You need to only occupy physical spaces that bring about those specific emotions. You don't want to read Harry Potter to be inspired. You need to read the Gospels to be inspired. It has to be religious texts, philosophical texts, psychological texts, anthropological texts. You're looking for a specific set of emotions. You're not an emotional junkie. And you're not open to diversity. You want the emotions that Hussein creates for you, your teacher creates for you. They have to be in that particular branch. And what you realize is, physically, you just desire intensely to occupy that space where your teacher is, physically. There were days where he had company, and I would have the courage to say, "Can I come by?" He says, "Well, are you coming by yourself?" "Yeah." "Okay, fine. I have guests. I can't spend too much time with you because you're an idiot." So, okay. And then I would go to his house and I say, "Can I go to your library and just sit there and close the door?" He says, "Yes." And it is his house. It is his library. It's the floor he sits on, the chair he sits on, the books he looks at, the walls he looks at. And that for me is enough. And it sounds strange. How could you fall in love with someone's physical space? You do. That's how it happens. And then you only enjoy emotions that are relevant to the ones that Hussein created. Okay? So not only do you fall in love with this man physically, you also love the emotions. But now the emotions that he created come from one simple thing: his ability to think and express his thoughts and emotions. And you realize, man, I really love the way he speaks. I love his mustache. I love the way he gazes into your eyes, which makes you cry sometimes. I like his space even when he's not there. And every time he doesn't look at you, you feel hurt, pain, because when he doesn't look at you, you have zero value. Not to him, just in life, period. You just want to die. And then you realize that the sort of thoughts he has and the sort of emotions that are generated by thoughts, he didn't get them from books. And I'll tell you a story. One day, with very, very clear intentions, I go to his house and I say, "I know you have gatherings and all that stuff. Can I just go to the study?" Yeah, go. Lock the door. And I went there with my backpack. and this was early on when I had first, met him. I took out my notepad and I took my pen. And I wrote down 1,000 titles of the books, all in Persian, he had in his library. And then I go home that night and I call my grandfather. And I say, Grandma is here. I'm going to give her some money. She's going to give you a list. Can you take this list to various bookstores? Because these are out of print, ancient books. Can you get those books for me? He says, yeah, no worries. So initially I had assumed that Hussein is the way he is because of all the books he had read. Then time passed, I realized that there is this complications with wisdom, the door behind which wisdom lives, the keys that opens the door to wisdom. It doesn't exist in books. It doesn't exist in human thought. It only exists in inspiration, and you have no idea what they'll to do with it. All you know is that even though this guy offers you no keys, no doors, but intuitively you feel as if he's offering you something that you can't really categorize or express well. And every time you try to, people think you're like stupid, And then you realize, man, this guy has a soul. And before any thoughts come to him, it has to filter through the soul. And then that set of thoughts or ability to think and reflect will create a set of emotions. Those emotions also have elements of his soul in it. And his physical space also, because he's a man who sits, thinks, writes, feels, cries, and prays, even the physical element is contaminated by his soul. And you realize for the first time in your life you have fallen in love with some man's body, some man's emotions, some man's intellectual abilities, and a soul that you can't see, and yet you feel. Now, when you fall in love with such a person, your entire life is turned upside down. And there are going to be moments of profound jealousy and anger because your life is a mess. You go to him and you say, I'm angry. My life is going nowhere. My brother graduated. My sister graduated. I am 8, 10 years old and they are. I'm nowhere. And he looks at me and says, Amir, be patient. Be patient. You have a wife. You got kids. You got money. You got a house. I got nothing. Patience for what? And all he says, be patient. And the truth is, you can't walk away. You're in love with him. And time passes, and now you become a monogamist. If there is anything I want to do with my life, if it doesn't contain emotions, if it doesn't contain reflection, if it doesn't contain philosophy, but his kind of philosophy, I'm not touching it. So he gives me like dialogues of Plato in Persian. I say, really? This is philosophy? Yeah. You know what? I'm going to major in philosophy. And I tell my parents, but they're very disappointed. Because no one from the Middle East should do philosophy. I mean, you're born with philosophy. The moment you come out of your mother's womb, you're a philosopher. I mean, the country's a mess. It pushes you to think and reflect and feel about awful things in life. And you get your bachelor's, but because he's made you feel stupid, the bachelor doesn't really elevate your status. But then you get your master's, you still feel kind of dumb. You get your PhD, you still feel dumb. But 20 years pass by, you realize you have devoted your life to this man. Even though later on he became completely irrelevant for me, but he was the concrete, the anchor, the platform on which I built my life. And it's something I always tell Sarah, that the life that we have is all because of Hussein. Now that is the kind of love you want. Something whose expiration date is way, 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 way. It's far into the distant future. And by the time you realize that you no longer need this kind of a love, by that time your life is settled. You have accepted both your wins and losses. Okay, so you're not going to be a full-time instructor, but you'll be part-time and you'll have 6, 7 classes every semester. And you also begin to know the value of things, what it is that brings you pleasure. That in itself gives you a good amount of contentment, satisfaction. And even when your dad dies, even your mom dies, you will grieve. You will be very, very sad. You'll be very, very angry. But something happened to you some 30 years ago. You suffered the loss of your own life, your own identity, your own value as a human being. You've been grieving for the past 30 years. Now it's just your dad has passed. You understand it really, really well. And now you can be a great daughter to your mom. And that is a love that you want to pursue. That's a key you want to look for. And a door you want to knock on. Very, very tough to find. So, teachers are like this master key. They can open any door. Any door. Again, one of the best teachers, I think, out there who looked at things very scientifically was the Buddha. I don't know if the guy existed, but the philosophy, the Four Noble Truths are really amazing stuff. He doesn't tell you have faith. You have the ability to observe, you have the ability to examine, you have the ability to feel pain and be okay with it. You have the ability to understand. Not just understand the tiny bit, you have the ability to understand the whole goddamn thing. And he requires no faith in any deity out there. Have faith in your own intelligence. It'll take you some time to cultivate that, but it's there. The Buddha seed is inside you. You need someone to train you. Train your body so it can have the proper set of emotions. Then train your intellect so it can figure out where that body should go and what sort of emotions it should house. And that's all you need. I don't know if any of that answered anything. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if you said this and I didn't understand, but how can a person be a novelist with like a certain set of ideas if they also have to have like a physical body to do all the things?
My sister has a big house. You've been to her house, right? It's like crazy. But in all the gatherings that she has ever held, the only place that we have ever occupied is the living room. We don't deny the existence of the upstairs, of the huge backyard, front yard, all the other rooms, Once in a while we walk through them, once in a while we sit on the sofa somewhere out there, but for the most part we occupy that particular space. And I think, the Zen story is quite appropriate to respond to your question, which is, when you're tired, just sleep. When you're thirsty, just drink some water or beer, When tired or when hungry, just eat food. And when you have questions about this other part, just go to it, fine. As long as you have poured the concrete, and as long as the concrete has hardened, that is the monogamous position you will always occupy. Because every aspect of your house is resting on the concrete. Now, you can go home and you can have a huge disagreement, i.e. fight with your husband. But eventually, you're going to, like a nice little bee, you're going to go somewhere, vomit all this experience out, take a look at it, and then go back and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. That's monogamous. Almost everything you do revolves around your ability to reflect, to examine, to observe, to feel, to be relatively sober in a life that's trying every which way to intoxicate you with some stupid, ridiculous thing. And it's tough. I think if any of you in this class desire such a life, give yourself about 20 years, 25 years. And it's something I think I've shared with some of you. I spend a good amount of time with Hussein, and I've been teaching for a long, long time. It's only been about 5 years, maybe less, that I've understood all the things that Hussein had done, all of my own experiences. So imagine, here you are 18, now you are almost 60. That's 40 years. It has taken me almost 40 years to understand just a few things. The sacrifices he and his wife made, and the sort of keys, desires, and doors he invented and pushed us to walk through. And it's something you need to understand also about your own culture, because this is a quick fix culture. That if there are anything you want out there, life owes you. You need to get it in the next couple of weeks. And when it comes to this stuff, it's not true. So patient. Anyone else before we go home and have turkey?
You had briefly discussed emotional love earlier, and it sounded very, very similar to codependency. I was wondering if that was always the case.
Well, codependency to what exactly? My mom was 15 when she got married. She's almost 80 now. My father has been the only man that she's ever touched, she's ever known intimately. If he dies, she's been codependent on this man for 60, 70 years. She'll be devastated when he dies. I'm not really quite sure what's going to happen to her. Especially given the fact that women have a tendency of living anywhere 7 to about 15 years longer than a man. That's horrifying. I want her to die at the same time. Because what is she going to do at the age of 80? That codependency is good. But codependency, the way that she has it, also creates a healthy history. And when that is cut, you are devastated for a long, 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 long time. And I don't think there is going to be a quick or a good recovery. If on the other hand you're talking about you and I are in a relationship, I'm a complete mess, but you depend on my mess to elevate yourself as an intellectual human being, then when I fix myself, I wouldn't need you. But you're dependent on my mess, and that relationship is going to suffer, and then you're going to walk away. That's another form of codependency, The other is the one that I had with my own teacher. I look at my life and it's relatively okay, and I'm glad that I was codependent. Look, if you go to Home Depot and you buy yourself a 1-gallon redwood, just plant the redwood. We have the rain season and the wind season coming our way, which means that you don't need to dig a hole that's huge for a 1-gallon redwood. It's going to be quite shallow. Okay. If you want your redwood to survive, you put a stick on this end, you put a stick on this other end, and you tie it with a ribbon. That's called codependency. The wind will go make the tree go this way and this way, okay? The rain will make the ground soft to the point that if the wind comes, it can be uprooted, but the sticks and the ribbons will hold the redwood intact in place. Go to the same redwood 10 years later, and you realize the trunk is big, it's huge, and you grab yourself a pair of razor blades, and you just cut the ribbon, remove the sticks. It no longer needs the codependency. It's mature, it's independent. It can bend, but it won't break. Unless, you're talking about a wind at 90 miles. Codependency is good. The other thing about codependency is it's something that you will understand the first noble truth in Buddhism. You and I, the only way we can survive is for a whole host of things to come together. It's like making a pizza dough. You need flour, you need water, you need yeast. You need a place that's warm. You need a bowl. You need a towel or a blanket. Then you need an oven. And you realize, well, you can't just go get flour and just make bread. It doesn't work that way. You need milk, you need water, you need a whole host of things. Life means codependency. There is nothing wrong with codependency. Just be dependent on the right people. Don't hang out with those who smoke, those who drink, use foul language, listen to bad music. There's a place and time for that. I'm not saying that they're bad. But when your life revolves around those things and you become addicted to those things, and then there comes a point where you say, I want out, I have kids, I have a wife, I have parents, I just don't want to live that lifestyle anymore. But now you have an addiction, a history to deal with. Codependency is good. Don't listen to therapists or psychologists who say otherwise. The Western approach to life, it sucks. It is very good to see all of you. I hope you have a nice Thanksgiving with your families and friends. Stay well, stay healthy, have a good time. I'm sorry if I talked a bit too much today. Wolf, it's good to see you. Tell your companion I'm from Iran and I say hello.